to our fourth day of Insect Week. We are going into the bug's life, and today we have an amazing insect to look at. I'm super excited. We're going to look at water walkers, which are some of the only insects that you can actually find in, on the ocean. Not in the ocean, because if they're in the ocean, they're food now. If you want, we're going to get to the supplies in a second. If you want to shout out, make sure you type your name in the comments, and Evan will read those to me in just a second. And just a reminder to like us and follow us on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to support our science as we go through all of these school closures, you can find us at patreon.com/RosieResearch, and we are doing science Monday through Friday until the end of school, and then hopefully we'll figure out some sort of cool summer thing that we can do together. Today, you don't need a whole lot. You need a bowl of water, which I know everybody has. I've got a towel, because whenever we do water, I like to have a towel. If you want to do an extra experiment with this, you can use some dish soap or some oil, which will be really fun. You're going to need a pair of scissors, and then you'll need some sort of thin wire. If you don't have that, totally fine. Maybe you have some paper clips around. If you don't have those, maybe you have some cardboard that you could cut into strips. And you could have skinny strips of cardboard. That would also work, and you can even do the additional experiments with thin cardboard too. So there's a lot of options for that. And then I just have a pair of tweezers, the things that we use to get splinters out, that I'm gonna use, but that's super easy. If you wanna use pliers, you can, but it makes it a little easier to move our wire around. So just a pair of tweezers, but you don't even need that. That's all we need. All these other things are for fun little interesting things that we can learn along the way. So if you don't have your stuff, you can take a moment and go grab that stuff before we get started, and we will find out who's with us to say hello in the meantime while you guys all run off and grab your bowls of water. So today we are going to learn about water walkers, which are these amazing bugs that you have almost certainly seen glitzing along the surface of lakes. And it's kind of interesting because they have this body, and their body's kind of big, which means, how are they not sinking? Because I don't know, if I took, other insects, like a roly-poly, and put it in raw water, I'm pretty sure the roly-poly is not happy. And water walkers are, the same size as roly-polies. In fact, water walkers can even stack two up. And so then you're like, wait a second, there's two water walkers on top of each other, and they're still not sinking, which is kind of impressive. And the way that water walkers do this is through something called surface tension of water. So when we have a big bowl of water, the water that's sort of inside, not the surface water, it has all of these friendships it can make. Each water molecule can make the same number of friendships. And it makes them all around it. And it's so happy because it's got all these friendships all around. But the water on the surface can't make friends all around, because up here is the air, and then down there is the water. So they actually have to make more friendships down below. And so those friendships are stronger because they're all sort of in the same direction. And by having stronger friendships, you make this skin of water. Now, without surface tension, our world is completely different. So if we didn't have surface tension, we wouldn't be able to float things on water, because the water there'd be no real difference between water and air. Right now we have water, and then there's a skin of water, and then there's air. And that's great. If we take off that skin, there is nothing to prevent that water from just straight evaporating into the air really, really, really quickly. And if you're anything like me, you probably like to drink water to stay alive, and if water is always evaporating into the air, we can't drink it to stay alive. So something with really low surface tension actually evaporates really quickly. Something like acetone, which is nail polish remover. So if you've ever put nail polish on and then you remove it, you'll notice not only does your finger feel cold, but it gets dry really quickly. And that's because it doesn't have much surface tension. So then it all evaporates, and it actually takes the heat of your finger away as it evaporates, which is why it feels cool. So surface tension is important for keeping water on the earth, which we all really like. And for water walkers, it lets them walk on water, which I think is cool. And today we are gonna make some water walkers as we learn really cool facts about them. And it can be tricky to make a water walker. because we talked about that surface tension of water and it's like just a skin. So you can't puncture the skin. And if you do puncture the skin, then you're just gonna sink right away. And I wanted to show you something cool about surface tension actually. And that is, I can put a bubble of water on this penny, and Evan's gonna go and he's gonna zoom you guys in. And as I put it on, you'll notice that I can actually make this nice, beautiful bubble on here. It's the water, there's some water that's going up, right? There's going up and around and over that bubble. And the fact that it can go up is all because of surface tension. And then if I add too much, it will all of a sudden do that. It will go away really quickly. And that size of the bubble would help us learn about its surface tension. You can see how big you can get. And another really cool thing is actually if you make a bubble like this on a clear piece of tape, you can use it as a microscope. It is like a super duper cheap microscope. Look, I'm adding a little bit at a time and you can see how big it gets. And the more surface tension I have in a liquid, the bigger this bubble can get, which is kind of cool. And then if I gotta add it really slowly because I don't want it to fall out. But I think I'm getting more on there this time. We'll slowly add it. And now people have learned how to put coatings on things, which will make it so that this bubble is less flat and more like a ball. And then you can actually add even more to it. But this is like a lot. And there it goes. Once it goes really, really quickly. And that is one of the things about surface tension. Once you break the surface tension, it's sort of, you've broken that skin and then you're sort of out of luck. But with the surface tension, it's strong enough that I could take something like just a piece of wire and I could put it in my bowl and it will sink. Womp, womp, womp. I could, however, distribute the weight of this a little bit better, and water walkers do this because they actually have 6 legs on them, and those legs are actually covered in really fine, teeny tiny hairs that make them super buoyant. So a water walker could actually carry 15 other water walkers on the back if it wanted to, which I think is cool. So what we're going to do today is you guys are going to shape this into any sort of bug you want. But a couple things to think about is you don't want it to go down and pop into the water because that will pop the skin. It'll break through that surface tension. So if you have something like this, you would want it to be going up. And then you want it to be, whatever is like sort of touching the water, we want it to be pretty flat for that same reason that we don't want it to poke into the water. So what I do with that is I just sort of press really hard. And this is the way I'm planning on trying to float it. And you can then see, you've got to go in really gently. And you can see if it will float on the water because of surface tension. So here is one quick little example of doing that. And if you're having trouble, I have a cool trick for you. So we talked about with the surface tension, if we pop it, right, that it sort of breaks the surface tension. But if you're having trouble, you could add pretend little hairs on your water walker legs. So those hairs that the water walkers have, they don't actually like water, so they're hydrophobic. And you might think in your head, I think I've heard Dr. Erica talk about things that are hydrophobic before. Remember, that's the one where they are phobic. They're scared of water. And there are some really easy things you have in your kitchen that are scared of water. And if you think about it in your head, you can see if you're right. One of those things is oil. Oil hates water. So if I put a coating on oil, it will actually repel the water from my water walker, and it will not puncture that surface tension. So it actually helped me. So I could just dip it in some oil if I wanted to. And this is a great trick if you're having a lot of trouble. And then you can also gently put it in, and it will float, and it actually floats a little bit better than it did before, which is cool. And you can, of course, make different shapes if you want to make different shapes. So here's another shape that you could try. And it will be really frustrating as you guys are trying this because it never works out the first time. One thing you could try, which may or may not work, is maybe you want a water walker body. So maybe you're going to try to have a little body that is lifted up somehow on some little water walking leg skis. And again, we want these things to be flat. The more wire that's touching the surface of the water, the more chance the surface tension has to push up, and then we can float, because if we pop the surface tension, if it's not strong enough, then it won't float at all for us. All right, so like as we add weight, it won't float. And you'll notice, well, actually one of mine has slowly gone down to the bottom. And we could see, does this guy work? And I have no idea. This could look like maybe like a little water walker. Now these guys, ooh, that one was close though. These guys all have 2 legs right now, and real water walkers have 6 legs. So you could think, maybe I'll add some extra legs. Maybe you're like, I'm gonna try to see if I can do this by adding some oil onto it, and see if by adding something that doesn't like the water, I can sort of help it be a little better. And as you're working on it, I have some amazing, amazing facts. Oh, no, that's not going to work. That one's close. But you're going to have to try different conformations. These flat ones are a little bit easier. So I want to see, you guys should try this and go for it. Things that sort of increase the amount of contact you have with that surface area are going to help. So you'll notice when it was straight, it fell down. And then when I wiggled it, and I sort of had it closer together, then it was happier. It floats a little better. So even though it has the same amount of wire touching, you actually have sort of you have more enclosed spaces, which is what we want for that. Here's a cool fact about water walkers. It's hard to think about bugs as being extraordinary. So like sometimes you're like, oh, it only, I don't know, jumped like 1/4 of an inch, and you're like, that's not a big deal. But if we were to blow the bug up to human size, it might jump like 10 stories, which is kind of a big deal. Same thing goes with water walkers. As you see them zip around the water, you might be like, oh, they're moving, but like they're not actually that fast. If you flew a water walker up to be the size of a 6-foot person, it would be swimming at 400 miles an hour. 400 miles
That's
an
pretty
hour.
fast.
That's really, really fast, which is really cool. I'm a big fan of that.
That's like a jet. This is a jet plane fast.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan. All right, so you may or may not have a water walker working, and that's totally fine, because you're going to just keep trying. It's really tricky to get it done. And I would start with something really simple that just looks like a squiggle, and then add on to your squiggle and see what you can make work as you go. Well, we can start with a squiggle. And you might be saying, Dr. Erica, this guy, I like it when I see them move around. I have a thing for you for that. So the skin of the water, we can actually change that surface tension by adding stuff. And one of the things we've talked about before is that soap kills bacteria, right? It rips it open. And the way it does that is it has one part, the head, that loves water. It's hydrophilic. It loves water. And the other part that's hydrophobic, it hates water, and then it can like squish its way into the bacteria and pop it open, and then it's dead. Woohoo! Which is awesome. Well, the same thing happens if I put soap on water, except for it's going to reduce the surface tension. It's going to wedge itself between all those friendships it made, all that strength in the skin that it made. It's going to reduce that by like wedging itself between them. And then you'll have a lower surface tension, and we can see what happens when we lower the surface tension.
Dr. Erica.
Yes.
One, the goods are here.
Hi, Goods.
And Tamsin and Laurel.
Yay.
And Ruby and Callie.
Oh my gosh. Hello, Tamsin and Laurel.
And
Ruby
Orion.
and Callie and Orion. Oh my gosh, we have a lot of friends who just joined us.
And maybe you can give some suggestions for things that are not wire that people have around the house.
Oh yeah. So like thin cardboard would be great. In fact, maybe Evan could go grab me some thin cardboard and we can do the project with that.
Paper clips, maybe?
You can also learn about some of the surface tension with just like some pieces of popsicle sticks, so like bits of wood for the projects that we are about to do. Wood floats, so it's not sort of surviving by surface tension. But you can also do this other part that we're about to do. But if you have like a thin cereal box or a granola bar box, you could do something where you sort of cut it really thin, and you could then shape this however you want. Now, I think the cardboard probably will float just naturally, but what you could try to do is see if you can't like bend it into a V and place it sort of feet side down if you don't have that.
Is this a good sculpture activity?
This is a great sculpture activity. If you are looking for an awesome way to add art into your day, this is like the way. So I'm going to try to just like bend this up almost like it was a boat. And then I'm going to try to put it in so it's sort of feet side down, so it's curving like this. And I could put that in, and it is hanging out. Evan is grabbing me. These are like twisty ties. So I could take some twisty ties, and I could mold it however I want. This one, maybe I'll try to like have a piece that comes up like that. Let's see, I gotta make sure it's flat on the table so that I don't have a piece that's poking into that skin of the water, breaking the surface tension. And then I can see if this one floats. So that guy's floating with like a little loop-de-loop, and that's just like a twisty tie. Evan's just like scavenging right now. He gave me a pipe cleaner. We can see if we get the pipe cleaner going. So you can do this with a lot of different things. And these are things that don't necessarily float, but because of the surface tension of water, and because we're sort of touching that water in just the right way and not breaking that skin, we're sort of standing on that skin of water. Let's see if I can. Oh, that one did not work as well. Whoop. That's okay. I think this one, the pipe cleaner might be tricky because all of these little fuzzy pieces are actually soaking up the water, whereas the hairs on the water walkers repel the water. So this is actually making it harder to be on top of the water, whereas the hairs for the water walker make it easier. Evan gave me a strip of copper tape. We can do it with copper tape, for sure. Why not? I feel like now I'm just getting like the everything that we can do.
Bread ties or twisty ties?
Bread ties, yeah, twist ties, bread ties, those are all great. Let's see, we can do it. And now again, I've got it sort of like as a little roof shape, and I can plop it in. Oop, I plopped it in the wrong way. Let's dry it off. If you fail, you're going to want to dry it off, because the moment that water touches water, that skin is going to change to absorb the extra water, and then it won't work as well for you. There's that one. Evan wants me to see if I can do a safety pin. I might actually just be able to do the safety pin when it's closed. These are all things that you might have around your house. I know paper clips will work. The trick is dropping it just right. Yeah, it's stuck on my finger. Ah. Oh, that one didn't work. Hang on. I think we can make this guy work. Just a... Oh, zip ties. Zip ties will probably work because I think zip ties float naturally. But that will also work for this next part here. So I've got all of these little guys floating. Let's give this one more try. I'm going to actually bend a piece up so it's easier for me to put it in the water without breaking that skin, because that's really important. So I'm just going to bend it with my little tweezers. Now I'm going to see, maybe I could put it in with the tweezers. I don't know if this one, there are actually some coins that you can do this with. Oh, there we go. Safety pins in. So that's the importance of how you put it in. So I put the safety pin in, making sure I could let go of it right on the surface of the water, and it did it just fine. So now let's change the surface tension of our water. And I can do that with soap because I can get between some of the water molecules. And as I change the surface tension right around the tip of this, which has soap on it, that's going to reduce the surface tension, right? Because it's going to break through some of those friendship bonds that the water is putting down. And it's going to break through those. It's going to reduce it. And it's actually going to push things in a certain direction. Are we ready? Make sure you're watching. Shoo! You can like drive it like a boat. And you'll notice now if I have too much, things started falling because the surface tension got reduced. So as I add more soap to the surface, things will start to fall. That would naturally fall. I'm not sure actually if, I think this one is, oh no, that one would have, oh, I did not know that. That one would have been okay. I did not realize that we were doing that one by surface tension and not by buoyancy, which is cool. But you can then dry your stuff off and try again. We didn't add very much soap, so it should be just fine to keep going. I'm going to try it with, oops, maybe I'm wrong. Let's find out. Hang on. We might need fresh water.
Maybe you could tell them real quick what the difference between buoyancy and surface tension is.
Ah, yes. So buoyancy is, there we go. Buoyancy is when we push water out of the way. So when we made our ships, we pushed a whole bunch of water out of the way, and then we looked at how much water did we push out of the way. The more water you push out of the way, the more the water actually pushes up on you. So like a boat that has a really big hull that pushes a ton of water out of the way could carry cargoes, and it could carry cars, and it could be made out of steel, all things that would not normally float. But we made this hull that pushes all this water out of the way, and the water wants to come back in. So it comes back, it tries to come back in, and it actually holds the boat up. All right. Surface tension, on the other hand, is just relying on that little skin of all those, that really thin layer of water molecules holding hands together, almost like if you were thinking of like a piece of tissue paper, holding it together, and then you're placing it right on top. And for light things or things that are shaped just right, it can hold. But the moment that you rip that tissue paper, or that you rip that little surface of water, everything would fall through. So that is the difference between buoyancy and surface tension. One of them is using sort of the idea of pushing water out of the way so that the water wants to come back and it pushes your ship up, and you can now take things all across the ocean. And one of them is looking at just that skin and the extra strength of just that skin of the water, and allowing something to lay on top of the skin of the water. And then, of course, we can change our surface tension by adding something like soap, and that will make this little guy move. Oh, you know what? I think because it's got soap in it already. Yeah. You only get a one-hit wonder with this, but we can actually, we'll do it with this water, which doesn't have soap in it. We can, again, change our surface.
We can't see over the edge of that.
Oh, Evan's giving me a no-go on that. He's gonna dump it out. My nice photographer guy. All right, here we go. So we could refill with some more water.
I've got a couple questions too.
Okay. Hang on, we'll get to questions in one sec. We're gonna refloat this guy. Zoop. Really gently. And then if I add the soap, it will make it move out of the way, which is really cool. And you might have done this if you do milk. This is a really popular experiment where you do milk and you put different colors of food coloring, and you add a little drop of soap and everything goes whoosh, which is really pretty. That's the exact same thing. So you're changing the surface tension of the milk, and as that surface tension change expands, you are moving all of the particles towards the surface, which has the dye in it, and it makes this really pretty rainbow, which I love. Questions? Let's get to our questions.
Rohan was saying his twist ties floated at first, and they stopped. What should he do?
Oh, perfect. So if it floated at first, that's a great sign, because that means you have the right sort of idea. It will sink over time, especially our things, because the water will start to sort of attach to it. We don't have something that's hydrophobic, that's water hating on it. If you want it to go longer, you could just dip it in a little bit of oil, just like that, and it will create that hydrophobic layer, that will mimic the legs of the water walker. And again, it is really important that's really dry when you put it in, and it's really important that you put it in really gently, which is sort of the trickiest things about it all. And you do want it to be flat. So like I have changed the shape of this. And let's see if we can't get a little bit of oil on this one. And you don't need too much oil to make it hydrophobic. We can add a little bit. Just like that. And then it should float a little longer. And that is sort of the nice thing about the hairs on the water walkers, on their legs, is that they actually repel the water. So it sort of keeps it out, and it helps them like stay on top of that surface, which is sort of amazing. And there we go. Yeah, so if it's not working, the things you do want to check, make sure you're not puncturing the water so that you don't have like sort of like a sharp end that goes into the water. Make sure that you're putting it in really gently. That can be really tricky. You got to put it in very gently. You don't want to pop the water, and I'm saying pop because I don't want to poke through that surface tension of the water as you're putting it in, because that will break that sort of tissue paper-like surface. which will make it really hard. There's a lot of gentle and care that is necessary.
After they have
Season it with
successfully done it, should they maybe do some sculpturing with it?
They should totally, if you've gotten it to go, you should totally either sculpture with it, or you can play with the soap part of it. Oops, that was tricky. This one's really tricky to put in. To make it move, which is awesome. And then we're going to head over into Zoom in just a moment because I would love to see all of your projects and what you have made as your water walker. And it doesn't necessarily look like a bug. Mine certainly doesn't. But it is kind of cool to see it and see how that surface tension of those surface molecules making all those extra friendships down below instead of all around and making that surface slightly stronger, and how we can use that and how some insects use that to be like the way that they stay safe. Because it's kind of hard for a predator that might want to eat them to now come at them from any direction but beneath. Only fish are going to eat them because nothing else is out there. Maybe birds. I guess birds could swoop down and eat them.
Frogs?
Yeah, but frogs are like, well, okay, like aquatic animals. Like you're not guarding yourself from every direction, right?
Oh.
Like especially if you're out like way far in the middle of the lake. I feel like.
We do have a question from, and a great question I have to say. Orion says, does temperature matter?
Oh, fantastic question, Orion. I am super excited you asked this. Oh, I'm so excited you asked that. What a great question. All right, so let's think about what temperature does to water molecules. So we have our surface water that's like basically making all of its friends down below into the water, so it's stronger. So that's like our tissue paper surface. And then we have the water down below that's making friends everywhere. If we add heat, everybody gets excited. We're having a party. There's going to be a party on Friday. We talk about how there's going to be a party on Friday. Did you know there's going to be a party on Friday? Oh my God, I'm so excited. There's a party on Friday. And then like we add a little more heat. There's going to be cake. There's going to be cake. I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't wait. Notice what I'm doing? The water molecules do the same thing. They're like, as you add more heat, they start like getting really, really, really excited. And if we add too much heat, they might get so excited that they just jump off and they turn into steam. That is what steam is when those water molecules are talking about this party. There's going to be ice cream at the party. There's going to be popcorn at the party. We're going to watch a movie at the party. There's going to be a bouncy house at the party. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And they are just like out of it. They're like out of there. They are so happy. So now, Orion, I want you to think about, all right, if water normally, as it gets hot, gets so excited that some actually leave, what do you think that might mean about the surface tension of the water? So think about, does that mean it has really high surface tension or really low surface tension if we're losing molecules out here? And that means that they're not making the bonds that they used to make down below. They don't have as many friendships down below because they're so excited and they pop out. That means there's less friendships here on that surface. We're so excited we're like breaking some friendships because we're so excited we've got to go tell our other friends. And what might that mean for surface tension? And something you could think about is there are things that at a lower temperature evaporate than water, which would have sort of the same idea, because those things still have a surface tension. There's still a surface to nail polish remover. But we talked about nail polish remover earlier, so I'm curious if you have a guess on if that means that the surface tension is higher or lower. Give you guys a moment. We'll see if anybody comes in with an answer for Evan.
We have Abel who thinks that it'll be lower. Surface tension will be lower.
Abel thinks it'll be lower. So you can think in your head, do I agree with Abel or not? And think in your head, maybe I wonder why I might agree with Abel that the surface tension would be lower, or why I might disagree with Abel that the surface tension was lower. And if you're watching and you don't want to know the answer because you want to think about it a little bit, you can click pause on the video. All right? Last moment. Spoiler alert. Click pause on the video. And then you can come and you hit play again. All right. Here's the answer. Abel, you hit the nail on the head. So the surface tension gets lower as the temperature goes up. So as the temperature goes up, we get less, we get so excited that we break some of these bonds down here, and the surface tension gets lower. So if you did this with boiling water, it would be much harder to float something or not, to like put something on top of the surface, because the surface, instead of being tissue paper, is now like I don't know, a sliced, a thin piece of tissue paper. It's way thinner, and it's not as strong. If you did it with really, really cold water, those molecules are like so bored. They are bored out of their mind. They have nothing to do but hang out with their friends. So they bond really tightly with their friends. And then there's a higher surface tension. That was a great question, Orion.
That's a really good question.
That was a really good question. I
You
loved
know,
it.
Kaya and Orion both came in with a lower response as well. So great job.
Nice! Good job thinking through that, friends. I love that. That was a really, really good question. There's all sorts of things, too, that will change your surface tension, about things that you might add to the water to change the surface tension. So that's something to think about, too. That was a fantastic question. I loved that. I like questions like that.
All right.
Yay, physics. That's physics.
Physics.
You guys are all physicists today.
On Zoom,
Georgia has a question.
Lila's back.
Oh, she doesn't have a question. She had a comment. All right. So if we have any other questions, you can pop them in right now. Otherwise, we will prepare to head on over into Zoom so we can see projects and share our days and have some lunch together. If you're not over in Zoom and you're like, I really want to get into Zoom, you can totally come and join us. All of the access to that is at patreon.com/rosieresearch, and it gives you all of the downloads that we use throughout the week, gives you a heads up on all the supplies so you don't have to like run around the house madly and hope that you have everything. And then you'll also know about weeks that are coming up. Like you'll know that we're doing Spy Week next week, and we're going to make some cool spy devices. I'm so excited about next week. And tomorrow is my favorite day, also Kaya's favorite day, because tomorrow we are doing some circuits. And if you happen to have an extra little vibrating motor, you can make your little bug move. But if not, you're going to make a little bug sculpture out of LEDs in the battery that will have a really clever switch that'll be kind of fun to make. LEDs, circuits are my favorite. They're my favorite. So that is what we're going to be doing tomorrow if you're joining us tomorrow. And next week, if you want to come, we will be stepping into the world of making spy gear, which will be fun. And then I got to say goodbye, so we will... Oh, we'll head over to Zoom. Sorry. We're going to head on over into Zoom. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page. Spread the word about science if you're looking for some sort of structure in your day. Alrighty, friends. Have a good one. We'll see you in Zoom.
Bye, Bo.
Mama.